With that being said, let's continue with the pitches and the introduction from the startups from Roche. I would like to ask Tim Jäger on stage. Tim is the head of provider insights at Roche Information Solutions, and he will introduce the startups of Batch 5 from Roche. Tim, please join me on stage virtually.
Happy to do it. Great to be here. It does say that my video won't start because the host has stopped it, but I'm sure hope that you can hear me. So let me briefly share a few thoughts about Roche and why Roche, as we welcome more partners into startup Creasphere, which we founded with others like Sanofi a few years ago. We're certainly happy to now have additional partners join like Novo Nordisk and Biotronic, but we're equally excited to see a big group of startup companies, entrepreneurs, founders around the world yet again participating in this great vehicle. So my name is Tim. I lead a group called Provider Insights in a newly created business area in Roche Diagnostics, where we brought together 1,200 people from around our organization to really focus on bringing the best possible digital solutions to the laboratory, to patients, to providers, to payers, and to researchers in life sciences. The vision of Roche Diagnostics reads simple: innovating diagnostics, shaping healthcare, and changing lives. What's in this vision is an idea that Roche Diagnostics is not just active in the laboratory. We very much believe that we should be at the bedside with healthcare workers, shaping healthcare systems and ultimately improving the lives of patients and their families around the world. What is the perspective that we can bring to the table, and where do we see the convergence of science, medicine, and technology come together in our company and also in the way we work with many, many partners, big and small, around the world? So if you go into our organization, what's unique about it to begin with is we have pharma and dia under one roof. And there's a very simple fact in medicine: every good therapy begins with a good diagnosis. So being able to cover both and actually integrating both into personalized healthcare solutions, where you are in a continuous loop to check on the patient, monitor the patient, triage, and direct to the right treatments. Doing this within Roche is a pretty unique advantage. We are based on innovation in medicine, science, and biology, and it's our deep domain expertise in these areas that we want to combine with a growing digital competence in our organization, but also that of many, many partners around the world. We have a leading portfolio of therapies, and it should say diagnostics as well. We are a big provider of oncology solutions on our pharma side, but if you think about the work done just recently in the last year in virology, in COVID testing, where we brought more than a dozen tests and solutions, including digital solutions, to the market extremely fast. That's how we have an impact on healthcare and many, many lives around the globe. We are a pioneer, and we are a trusted pioneer. We do many things. First, we plan for the long term. We are, since 125 years, owned by the same family, and they really think in generations, and they have the willingness, the courage to innovate for the long term. We are indeed global, and we really built on strong partnerships, big and small, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So this is the way we embrace the digital product portfolio. I talked to you about Roche Information Solutions, where we have two areas: an area very much focused on digital solutions for the laboratory, and the area that I'm working in, Provider Insights, where we focus on oncology solutions and healthcare insights, which covers a wider range of therapeutic areas and stakeholders. And we're really looking at providing support for patients along the continuum of care. We're trying to drive, with data analytics and software products, value-based healthcare, and improve the outcome, not just for the patients, but also for healthcare systems, looking at population health initiatives. It's very important to understand the individual patient case, so very much stratified down to the biology of an N=1 cohort, but then also look at big populations and draw conclusions from those. And if you go further to the last slide that I have today, I just want to mention that from the very beginning and all throughout today, partnerships and collaborations are extremely important. And we look at various types of partners in various types of stakeholder categories that we work with. If you look at the work we do with the FDA, or of course the EMA in Europe, or other regulatory authorities and bodies like the FDA, we work very closely with them to shape the environment. We are one of the initial pilot partners for the FDA pre-certification program for digital health software, really trying to figure out how one best regulates software without stifling innovation and the innovation speed. We're experts in software as a medical device and bringing this in a safe and secure environment to markets around the world. We partner with technology companies, for example, when we come to complex integrations into IT infrastructure and healthcare systems. We partner with complementary providers of technology in healthcare, like GE Healthcare, who of course are very strong in imaging and acute care and other settings, where the combination into clinical decision support solutions is almost intuitive. And we draw quite a bit since now 5 batches in Creasphere and other venues, new ideas, new solutions, but also new partners from startups. So here we are with startup Creasphere. Yet again, excited to be here and to hear now more about the next Roche companies that we have introduced and are collaborating with in the context of startup Creasphere. Thank you for having us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tim. It's always great to see your insights and also where you want to go with startup Creasphere and overall. And I really have to say, being in the 5th batch now, it is a real pleasure to accompany you to envision, to help you to make that vision real. So a pleasure. Thank you so much, Tim. Without further ado, I would directly like to jump into the first startup pitches, but before we do that, just a quick reminder, we use Slido. So we have in the Meet Anyway tool an application embedded. It's directly below the main stage. You can go to Q&A/polls, open that and directly type into the interface questions that you would like to address to all the startups we're going to see in a second. With that being said, I'd like to directly jump into the first startup. It's the startup LabTwin, and innovation doesn't stop at the laboratory. It also changes processes in the laboratory and streamlines processes. How that is done and how also LabTwin is envisioned that, we will hear everything by Angel in a second. But first of all, we're going to see the quick video.
LabTwin is a voice-powered digital lab assistant which uses machine learning and voice recognition to aid scientists at the bench. By improving data capture, we help improve documentation quality and data integrity, reduce manual errors, and help in the overall efficiency of the processes. We have designed a solution that is not workflow tailored, but rather completely adaptable to different labs and industries.
We are assessing LabTwin's voice-powered lab assistant by bringing it into the hands of our researchers that work in the lab every day.
We are interested how their solution performs with background noise and various accents in a laboratory setting. Bumblebee, set a timer for 3 minutes.
Okay, your timer is set for 3 minutes.
over to you, Angel.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Angel, and I'm going to take the next minutes to introduce the initial findings from the collaboration we've carried out with Roche and Genentech in these last months. Since kicking off the project, R&D researchers have been using LabTwin to help them better interact with their lab systems. The main focus area that we had was documentation of laboratory processes and workflows. And also together with Roche and Genentech, we identified other high-value use cases. We looked into new features, as well as mapping how LabTwin could integrate into the existing lab ecosystem. So we worked with R&D groups of several Roche innovation centers here in Europe, namely in Munich, Basel, and Zurich, as well as with Genentech in South San Francisco. Another top 10 pharma that we are working with conducted a voice study analyzing other big voice providers and how well they fared with understanding their research. And in this study, LabTwin outperformed the rest. And this is simply because we developed LabTwin specifically to understand the scientific lexicon. And additionally, we can train on company-specific terminology, which is what we did at the beginning of this project with Roche and with Genentech, in order to ensure the best transcription accuracy. And it's also important to mention that LabTwin continuously learns and improves over time. But up until today, the scientists that we worked with evaluated the transcription with 4.2 out of 5. We've heard from our pharma partner that despite their heavily developed IT infrastructure, many researchers still rely on pen and paper notes to document observations or deviations in their experiments. And this leads to the work process having to be interrupted, notes having to be digitized after the experiments have been completed. And there's a chance that valuable information is not documented or perhaps even lost. And with LabTwin having a digital assistant, researchers on average were able to save 60 minutes a week in their work. Building on the same topic, we also looked into the quality of data. And for this, we asked researchers to carry out their work with and without LabTwin. In the pie chart on the left, you can see a classification of how information was captured without LabTwin. 71% of notes were either not documented, recalled from memory, or captured on paper. And this is something that we've seen in many of the companies that we've worked with. So they're heavily still dependent on paper. The same experiments were then conducted with LabTwin, and we asked researchers to weigh the information by how important it was to capture. And from this, we were able to conclude that in experiments where LabTwin was at hand, scientists were able to capture on average 51% more data, and that double documentation was nearly zeroed. Here we have some quotes from Martin and Blair. So Martin is from the Roche Innovation Center in Munich. And what he liked the most was the fact that he could capture information in real time, digitally, and not have to rely on paper. And Blair from Genentech liked that all the information could be captured and saved in one place. He didn't have to scribble down on a piece of paper or retrieve pictures on his phone, but rather LabTwin acted as a hub to collect all his data. Researchers had a good experience using LabTwin. So user-centered design is at the heart of our development process. And considering also that change management is critical when adopting innovation, we carried out a high-touch engagement to make sure that we provided value for the researchers and that they were happy using the app. We also analyzed a few workflows. So here we have an example of a sample preparation workflow, which is quite manual. It's a hands-on process that we have already validated before, and we found that it's quite amenable to voice enablement. So here we have Adelaide from the Roche Innovation Center in Zurich, and she's responsible for DNA sample prep. We summarized her workflow here at the bottom. It starts off from receiving the requests, then she prepares the samples and registers them. And you can see in the example GIF how LabTwin is used to contemporaneously capture the DNA concentration measurements. And also interesting in this particular workflow was the barcode scanning functionality of the app, as well as we looked into possibly integrating into the registry system to digitalize the workflow from end to end. And this point takes me then to my next slide, which scientists have to access and use many different systems in one day to get their work done. And because of this, companies such as Roche and Genentech are constantly looking for ways to facilitate these interactions. And this is why we're thinking beyond documentation with the vision of being the voice front end to all these systems and just making these interactions more intuitive and easy for the researcher. A few concrete examples to this could be voice enabling in ELN to streamline the data journey from real-time capture to reporting, or voice enabling a database to allow to query data at the point of experimentation, for example. And to finish off, we understand that spearheading an initiative like this in such a big company isn't easy. We've had ongoing discussions with Roche and other groups and other sites, and we see the Creasphere project as a piece to a larger puzzle. So if there are any other areas where you believe that voice assistants could be valuable, then please reach out to the pilot owners, Andreas and Lucas, which you saw in the introductory video, so we can all bring this into a bigger picture. And yeah, to finish off, I would want to thank the pilot owners, the Creasphere, and also the researchers who took part in the evaluation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angel. It's really impressive that 51%, I think that makes a real tremendous difference compared to the biocratic process beforehand. We already had the first questions, and a lot of them were about the vision, but I think you outlined them already. So it's a little bit more about the language which it is operative. So I presume at the moment it's a lot about English, but what's the roadmap or the vision in terms of adopting to different languages?
Yeah, and that's a very good question, and one we get asked very often since we're working on a German model, and that's something that we expect to have available in Q1, Q2. So we developed this together with one of our partners, but it'll be incorporated also into the core application, which currently runs in English. And the same goes for other European languages. So we take it on a case-by-case basis. Our team can support other languages. It's just a matter of prioritizing. And since we have quite a few companies here in Germany, which for rollout would need a German UI and also a model that understands work in German, that was our first priority.
Totally. I know the Germans prefer to speak in German, so that might be a struggle otherwise. Maybe one more question, and that's a little bit more around, the integration piece. So how quickly can you integrate your solution into existing laboratories, and then potentially also in laboratory systems?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of time, we're quite quick in the process. We have had quite a few standard integrations that we've already carried out with, for example, ELN. So this process is quite documented for us, and most of the work comes into sitting together with the researchers or the business team involved in carrying out these projects to kind of mapping out how we would want the UI to work. But this is something that if I had to put a time frame in a month's time, perhaps it can be already with an MVP that can be used in the lab that can then be iterated.
Okay, that's pretty quick. One last question, and it's a little bit going away from the laboratory. Do you envision the product going or expanding into other industries, into other workflows beyond only the laboratory setting?
Yeah, so in terms of industries, we started off in pharma, but we have worked in labs of different industries. So we have quite a few projects in the chemical field as well. So I'm working with material science companies. They still face similar inefficiencies to pharma labs, relying on paper, having disconnected systems. So voice is attracted to them as well. In terms of out of the lab, so moving away from the bench, there are a few other areas that are perhaps interesting for us, such as more facility management, maintenance applications of still lab facilities, but this is not bench side work per se. And this is something that even with Roche in this project, not specifically in the Creasphere project, but speaking with Roche in other innovation centers, we've been approached with similar use cases, more in the maintenance and facility management, but still using voice.
That's fantastic. Well, the best to that. Unfortunately, we have to cut it a little bit short. There are a bunch of questions, and everybody in the audience, please feel free to swing by, check out Lab Twins startup booth and chat to Angel and the team. I'm sure they are happy to answer all of your questions and see how you could potentially work together, explore opportunities further. So Angel, thank you very much. Great having you on stage.
Bye-bye, Bobby.
Bye. All right. So that brings us already to the next company. We've been in the laboratory setting, and the next company deals with a field that is very, a crucial part of that field is a laboratory. We're talking about pathology, and HS Blocks has developed a solution, or is developing a solution with Roche in particular, to bring multiple stakeholders in that journey together. How they do it, Lynn will elaborate a lot about it in a second, but first of all, we're going to see a quick video.
I'm Lynn Carroll, and I'm pleased to introduce HS Blocks, a technology company that's applying digital healthcare logistics at the intersection of the physical and digital worlds. We're pleased to collaborate with the Roche team in Argentina to deliver optimized care solutions for patients and healthcare providers along the patient journey.
HS Block, with his product and technology, is leveraging our initiative to connect the healthcare ecosystem to the next level.
Integrating the patient is one of the most important aspects of quality care. So facilitating patient engagement and decision-making is truly rewarding. Startup Creasphere has afforded HS Blocks the opportunity to work with a team of experts working to improve health outcomes on a global scale.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Over to you.
I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay, very good. So thank you, Fabian. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody today. I'm Lynn Carroll, Chief Operating Officer at HS Blocks. We're an Atlanta, Georgia, USA company. We have built a platform for digital.
Sorry, Lynn, for the interruption. We currently see a speaker view. Maybe it would be good to have a quick change.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yeah, now it's perfect.
Okay, very good. Again, we're a digital healthcare company, and we've built a digital healthcare logistics platform specifically to improve the patient journey with the goal of improved outcomes. Some of our use cases are patient integrated logistics, which we're conducting with the Roche team in Argentina. We are also in the decentralized clinical trial space, where we've done some pilot work. And we have done some recent work in the social determinants of health space here in the United States with a large insurance company. The platform is a SOC 2 Type 2 audited platform across all trust principles. So the problem that we solve for is disparate data, and bringing that together. Oftentimes you'll hear the comment, if we only had the data. And so what we're experts at doing is bringing disparate sources of data together around a longitudinal record for the patient. So our solution and platform goes by the name CureAlign, and it is a consent management capable platform at the patient level. It brings disparate sources of data together into what we refer to as a longitudinal health record, where we organize that data into roughly 18 different ontologies, normalize that data, and create the ability to share it on a permission basis across different stakeholders. The platform incorporates blockchain for the permission data sharing and consent management. And we also incorporate machine learning for things like master patient index and patient matching. In the pilot program with Roche, we have addressed a couple different aspects of the patient journey, specifically starting with HCP test ordering and improving biomarker test requests, managing the logistical components of that process in step number 2, and then bringing the generated results back to the HCP. Another component of the solution, which we'll show in a second, is that there's a mobile application for the HCP to do that. Future phases post the pilot include treatment design based on the data that's aggregated by the platform, moving into access to personalized medicine and treatment, and then a 5th step, which is the ongoing monitoring during the treatment phase. This screen particularly shows the tracker that was built during the pilot, which is an order tracking mechanism where the test is ordered, tracked through the process, results are generated, and ultimately disposition into storage. On the right-hand side is the mobile application, just a quick view of what the HCP sees for ease of ordering in just a matter of steps. Some of the advantages of the platform are built-in governance, where transparency, consent, security, and auditability are part and parcel to what we do with the platform. I'd like to give a shout out to certainly startup Creasphere, but more specifically to our Roche partners, specifically Fabian and Tamara from the Argentina team, who were just invaluable in terms of their expertise in guiding our project. With that said, ready to take some questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lynn. It was really, really helpful to see that presentation from you and to understand your solution better. We have the first question coming in, and that's a little bit about availability. So we presume you're fairly flexible and fairly available in the States and also then South America. But what is your plan in terms of expansion, in terms of a global reach?
Sure, it's a great question. We've built the platform from the bottom up to support localization and globalization. So we, as an example, if we have stakeholders that want to work in any of the workflows in German, as you were mentioning earlier, English and Spanish, if we had 3 of us and we wanted to use different language, we support that.
Okay, fantastic. You mentioned German, and I know here and also now more in the European space, GDPR is a huge thing when it comes to data. Is your solution GDPR compliant?
We have not certified it for GDPR. As mentioned, we have had a SOC 2 Type 2 audit here in the States performed by Grant Thornton. One of the initiatives that we have is to have a cross mapping to GDPR and then do a certification.
Okay, yeah, sounds fantastic. One last question, and then I will leave you up to the networking as well. So what is the difference between HS blocks and other solutions that are out there?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think our expertise lies in data aggregation. We fundamentally build things from the data layer up to be able to then create appropriate presentation layers for the data. And so we're heavy on design, and we're heavy on data management. And then what we work with on a use case basis is to construct different workflows or track and trace mechanisms that are specific to our client needs.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the answer. I think it clarifies a lot of things. As mentioned, please later see Lynn on the startup booth during the networking. I'm sure he's more than happy to address all your questions and really talk about the solution in depth. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, with that being said, we're already at the next startup, and that brings us into the emergency room. So the emergency room typically can be very hectic, and it is crucial to have a guidance to a certain extent. Retivus Health has, approached this topic. How they've in particularly approached it, Jeff will tell you after the video on the stage everything about it.
We're a digital software startup based out of Kansas City in the United States. Our team of nurses, doctors, and technologists are passionate about optimizing patient safety during a medical crisis like sepsis and cardiac arrest.
We put the sepsis patient workflow in the emergency department in the middle of our folds and combine the capabilities of both companies in order to improve patient care where it is needed most, at the critical care.
I have thrown my hat back in the ring as a physician to help out with the pandemic as a telehospitalist. It's the right thing to do because of the burden that has been placed on our healthcare providers with the virus.
You start at a green field, and hopefully after a 3-month period, you have developed a concept which has the potential to improve diagnostics.
Fantastic. So we're on air, so the stage is yours.
Thank you, Fabian. Start sharing our screen now. Hi, I'm Jeff Dunn. I'm founder and CEO of Retivus Health. I am a hospital-based physician who's passionate about patient safety in the intersection of innovation and technology. Retivus was founded by 5 doctors back in 2015 because of the belief that we could make a difference supporting providers during emergent events such as sepsis, cardiac arrest, and stroke. Now on to sepsis and why we care so much. This story here is a patient I saw years ago that gives you an idea of how critical time is with sepsis. Sonia was a 41-year-old female with 2 kids who came to the hospital with chest pain and confusion. The ER nurse, doctor, and myself were focused on the chest pain and the fact that she didn't have a heart attack, but ended up reacting slowly and identifying that she had sepsis from an aggressive pneumonia that ended up taking her life. There are approximately 50 million people total cases of sepsis per year, with 11 million of those losing their life annually. 50% of the time, the diagnosis is delayed or missed altogether. Every hour you delay increases the chances of death by 8%. Hospitals, especially emergency rooms, are chaotic and busy for providers. There's an overabundance of data flowing from the digital record, and constant attention is being taken away at the task at hand. It can be difficult not to lose train of thought or forget something critical while taking care of multiple patients. The sepsis diagnosis often does not have any clear-cut symptoms, and many times it can imitate other diagnoses. Current technology is optimized for desktop computers and labs. It can take many hours to process and report. Combine all of those factors and you can see why the sepsis diagnosis can be the perfect storm. Retivus has developed software that can be launched from any device, including a smartphone, and acts as a digital safety net to improve screening, diagnosis, and treatment of this critical condition. Through this pilot project with Roche, we are evolving the artificial intelligence capabilities to autonomously flag abnormal vital signs and lab data, alerting the nurse and doctor that a patient is high risk. This, in combination with best practice recommendations and a treatment timekeeper, gives synergy to mobile POC devices and biomarkers. This improves provider mobility and enables fast identification and treatment of this deadly disease. Our software is live in hospitals currently and has led to 30% decrease in mortality, 2 times more identification, and improvement of 50% of treatment compliance. With the addition of an AI engine to our decision support software with mobile devices and biomarkers, you can see the impact this can have on preventing deaths. Retivus Vision is to be the digital safety net for emergent conditions like sepsis that can function anywhere, not just the hospital, ER, or ICU. We believe that simple, intuitive software, acting as an extension of the digital medical record, could optimize decisions for stroke, heart attack, trauma, cardiac arrest, and respiratory arrest. Because our software can function offline as well on any device, it makes this solution viable in an ambulance or nursing home as well. Thank you for supporting our mission to optimize patient safety during emergencies and in playing a part in changing the outcome for patients like Sonia. I want to get a quick shout out to Florian and the Oceans team. We had a blast the last 12 weeks collaborating with them and hope to continue into the future. Happy to take any questions at this time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the insightful pitch, Jeff. I've one question that just came up, and that is, how quickly can your solution be implemented into your hospital systems?
It's very quickly implemented, and I can tell you some of the recent integration techniques that we've used in the United States gives us the ability to integrate into the EMR in 4 to 6 weeks. So we're a simple, intuitive tool. It takes a couple days of training for the staff, and that integration technology has been game-changing for us.
Fantastic. Yeah, sounds like a real impact. Speaking about impact, how many hospitals already use your solution?
We have about 15 to 20 that are currently on the solution, supporting thousands of providers to date. We hope to grow that out of the Midwest into other states in the United States, as well as Europe, Canada, and beyond.
Fantastic. Then one slight question that's a little bit more towards your pilot. Have you reached any crucial milestones during the 12 weeks?
I think the crucial milestones were us getting familiar with each other. We had 18 total people working together, and the important opportunity that we had was working to the workflow of a healthcare provider and making that work into the emergency room. So we went through that, asked questions of some key opinion leaders, whether we were making the right assumptions or not. And they all said that we were on the right track. So getting that workflow down and then going after developing the technology was really the strategy.
Sounds like a great strategy. I actually have a lot of questions here, but we're running a little bit out of time. So here again, for everyone in the audience, please go to the startup booth and speak to Jeff directly and the team to tell you a little bit more about what they're doing and how they're addressing all your questions. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so as you might already seen someone else joining us, we're off to the next company. It's LifeGen. So they're really transforming our perception and also the procedure around reimbursement. So right now it's really case by case, service by service, but the outcome is underserved and not really looked at. Michelle with LifeGen, they're approaching it slightly different from an outcome perspective. Fun fact about the company, most of the finding team actually comes from Roche. So it's also interesting to see how ex-Roche employees are working with their ex-employer now together. So Michelle will tell you all about that in a second, but first of all, we're going to hear a quick video and see a quick video.
a platform to digitalize all sorts of value and data-driven contracts within the healthcare industry. You collect the relevant data, visualize the data, and execute value and data-driven contracts.
We were introduced to LifeGen in November 2020, and since then we've been working with the LifeGen team to look at how we implement a project proposal for patient self-testing in anticoagulation services in NHS Wales.
We at Roche Diagnostics want to assess the market readiness as well as the technologies in the field of value-based healthcare. LifeGen is the perfect match for us.
LifeGen works since its foundation with large healthcare industry corporates, and what we learned is you need to have early on a high level regarding IT security, data privacy, and other structural aspects. And as all founders have backgrounds from large corporates such as Roche, we were used to that.
So, Michel, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Fabian. Let me know when you see the screen, please.
Yes, we do.
Great. So, welcome everyone. My name is Michel. I'm one of the co-founders of LifeGen. And the goal of the next 5 minutes is to tell you who LifeGen is, what we do, and what we have done within Roche and the Creasphere project here. So LifeGen is a B2B SaaS platform that enables the contracting of value and data-driven contracts for all healthcare stakeholders. Some of them are mentioned here. And as you see, we are quite active already in some of the markets on the globe. I marked here in green the UK, because this is the country which is in scope here for the Creasphere pilot. And if you think about it, the fee-for-service healthcare world of today. So last year, we were all standing out of the balcony applauding for the nurses, the doctors, and the healthcare providers, because they were so valuable for our society during this first wave of the COVID-19 crisis. But if you look at the financial results of those hospitals, they all faced tremendous financial losses. So in that sense, the healthcare system of today is kind of sick. If now the manufacturers, which are pharma companies, medical device diagnostic companies, and the paying party, hospitals or health insurances, they now want to agree on value and data-driven contracts that will face those kinds of challenges. Of course, you want to comply with data privacy and data security aspects. You need to have access to the data, otherwise you cannot enter any data-driven contract. You need to define in your contract what is a desirable outcome and what is a bad outcome. A certain digital infrastructure must be in place. And of course, because those two parties are totally conflicted towards each other, they're looking for an element of trust. And you want to scale that, the more of those contracts you have in place. And this is what our solution is doing. I'm starting here at the bottom right. We can really work with any data source that you define. We have experience with claims data, financial data, data coming from any kind of third party, and also, of course, with clinical data coming from the providers themselves. Our platform is product and disease agnostic. So we have started within oncology, moved to medical device, rare diseases such as cell and gene therapies, and now within this pilot, we're doing our first work within the diagnostic space. We allow then to show you the value that you have created within each patient. And we're doing this in an automated, secure, and compliant way. And of course, you can scale that. You can scale that across markets, across customers, across products. Within the Creasphere program, we worked with Roche Dia UK. The paying party is NHS Wales, and also we connect them with the hospital. The data that we need is coming from the device itself, provided by a third-party data providing solution. We can now add clinical data from the hospital, and of course also financial data from NHS Wales. Typically, if you move away from a fee-for-service, fee-for-product world to a value-driven world, this must be seen as a journey, because this is a novelty and it involves a lot of uncertainties for all parties. So typically, we start at the value proposition of the product. And here, the product that was in scope here gives you the freedom to test anytime and anywhere, as compared to go to the hospital and get tested there. This already improves your quality of life. But not only that, it also helps you to stay more time in the therapeutic range because you can react quicker. And that is leading to less complications. So we have cost savings and better health outcomes. And what LifeGen now enables you is to demonstrate this value that you have created in the real world. And on top of that, you then can also being paid for the value you have created. Where do we stand? It has been now almost 3 months that we've worked together. We have set the basis, meaning we have drafted the concept that is ready to be implemented. We've did first assessments on the data privacy and regulation side, and we've talked to the relevant stakeholders and got their engagement. Forward-looking, we are looking forward to implement the solution and start creating the valuable insights for Roche and its stakeholders. So now, if you agree, you don't want to pay or don't want paying for products, but for better health outcomes, please reach out to me. Here's my email or on LinkedIn. I'm happy to tell you more. And I want to have the last slide and thank you all from the Creasphere and Roche team. It has been so far an amazing journey with you, a really great program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michel. That's actually something we can just only reflect and send back. It was a great journey with you so far, and we're looking forward to the next steps. So you mentioned during your slides also something about a mindset and regulatory issues you face. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that specific angle, what regulatory issues you're currently facing and where you see how do you see they overcome?
Yeah, I mean, so what is important to state is because it's novelty, and we're working here with large corporates, large institutions. We want to comply, of course, with all the regulatory things, and you need to show that usually with an external third party. So we also do an external data privacy policy assessment, just to make sure that everything that we do here is according to the relevant laws. And what we see, of course, is the law is often behind the market. So we have also seen in some markets, not the ones that we hear, that actually it's prohibited to have a different price for the same drug for different patients. And of course, the lawmakers that did this law some years ago that haven't thought about value-based healthcare was probably more for equality reasons. But those are the things that we found out and that we have somehow to comply with.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Thank you, Michel. That also comes with a certain thought or concern. If it's really truly about the outcome, isn't there also a risk attached that hospitals or doctors or like physicians won't accept certain patients because they have a poor probability of a good outcome?
I don't think so. So our experience with the hospital was so far that they were very proud of the results they can achieve, and they want to demonstrate that. So they're using our tool mainly also to benchmark, to show that they're better than others, and also then of course to be rewarded for the good work they do. I think it's also completely against the ethics of anyone that works within healthcare to act in such a way. I wouldn't agree to that statement. And what I also can say is we not only digitalizing outcome-based contracts. So we also have volume discount contracts, which are quite confusing at scale, population-based, indication-based. So we really do any complicated contract that you have that is depending on or involves any dynamic, we can help you out with. So it's not only outcome and value-based contracts.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think also it's always about perception. If someone is not healthy but has a slightly better outcome of life, that's also a benefit or a positive outcome. So thank you so much, Michel. We're going to see you later anyways at the startup booth. It was very good to have you on the stage. And yeah, looking forward to the next interactions.
Thank you, Fabian.
All right, so that already brings us to a company that has gone through a very tremendous growth over the last, I would say, 3 years. They've been growing from four employees to 40. But the really interesting piece of information about that company is they're actually more active in the mining space, but have transformed and pivoted their solution to really help with a completely different pain point in their healthcare system. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome you to the stage, Yodai, after the quick video.
Voyager is our solution for the treatment of multifactorial diseases, such as type 2 diabetes. Together with Roche, we are testing the system in Chile at the San Vicente Hospital to then scale to all of Latin America.
We're focused on the cardiometabolic disease, improve the decision making, and reduce the cost. So by doing that, we ground the personalized healthcare and pave the way for the future value-driven business model for Roche.
Our experience in the mining industry allows us to design products focused on zero harm to detect risky behavior, to avoid damage to people's health.
The most valuable part has been the opportunity to share the technology developed in our country with the chance to scale it at a global level in countries with realities similar to ours.
Yodai, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Fabian. Hi, I'm Jordan Zuleta, Chief Design Director at UNIT, Universal Intelligence from Chile. I'm so proud to be here with you. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's go. Here is the problem we are facing at a global level. Type 2 diabetes is a problem that affects more than 470 million people in the world. But less than 50% are diagnosed, and of those, less than 50% have adherence to the treatment. It generates a high cost for the health system of more than $2.1 trillion per year, because the worst consequence, like heart failure, amputation, diabetic nephropathy, diabetes foot, and others like death. And it generates because the current treatment is only based on biomarkers like hemoglobin, glycemia, weight, and height, for example, without incorporate socio-psychological information like behaviors, family support, work, and educational data. Voyager is a solution that easily integrates all information from hospitals and from Roche devices like AcuCheck and Cobas B101. The system analyzes the clinical information and delivers suggestions to the clinicians. How Voyager works? First, during the clinical appointment, the clinician enters information by voice. Then, the system generates an audio transcription to clinical text, and then sort and classify text content based on clinical information, biomarkers, and other data. The system analyzes structured information using artificial intelligence and delivers therapeutic recommendations, sending a preventive alert to the clinical user. And the objective is to customize the treatment per patient to avoid hospitalizations and the worst consequences. This is our current status of development. During this 3-month of Creasphere program, we did in November the approval of the pilot protocol in the hospital, in the San Vicente Hospital in Chile. Then in December, we start with the patient enrollment, and we delivered AcuCheck device to all of them, all of the patients. During January, we start testing the system on 30 patients. We had a national press release in Chile. This is our team working with agile methodology in the hospital and remotely, together with Roche, the San Vicente Hospital, and UNIT. And this is the hospital implementation. During these 3 months, we are testing on 30 patients. We have 2 monthly follow-ups with more than 180 glycemias per patient. And the first insight from the patient is that the clinical user, is that it's easy to use, fast to use, friendly, helpful, and useful recommendations like this, for example. During the clinical appointment, Voyager allows, in average, recognize 2 drug-to-drug interactions to improve the treatment, comparing with 0.5 interaction detection without Voyager, and decrease the time to generate an electronic medical record by 30%. For the other side, the system increased in 25% the time used by the clinician in the patient-centered effective care. For the other side, the watching the screen by the clinician decreased by 30% using Voyager. Our next steps in terms of the technical level is improve the algorithms. In the clinical levels is to perform the clinical trials for validation and scale up to other care centers. And in the business level, we want to scale to other markets like Mexico and other Latin American countries and consolidate on our business model. We have a great team. Thank you very much to Cecilia Acuña, our pilot owner from Roche, Brenda Chao from Roche Diagnostics, and Mario Cuevas and Andrea Vergara from Roche, and our great team of data scientists, data engineers, UX, UI designers, and physician Alvaro leading the team. We have a great press release in Chile with the diffusion of our Voyager technology. Thank you very much, and please follow this Voyager's journey to the interstellar space.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Yordai. Really insightful and also really impressive what you've accomplished during that short period of time. So kicking things off from a questions perspective, how do you handle data privacy? And of course, are there any implementations in the solution? Is the patient notified whenever a physician accesses the data, or how do you handle in general that aspect of the solution?
Yes, in the process, we obtain the consent of the patient about the use of this information about diabetes. And we process the data in cloud computing with the safety of the data, in the cybersecurity and data anonymization of the patient. And we are putting information in blockchain, using techniques of blockchain to protect this data from hackers and other third parties that want to get in the patient data.
That's fantastic. I think it will help you a lot down the road to really implement that solution. Talking about the solution, where do you see yourself? I know you've touched base on the vision with the project Voyager per se, but are you also looking into other disease spaces where your solution could also be very helpful?
Yes, we want to develop this solution in other multifactorial diseases, like the oral anticoagulant treatment and hypertension, for example, because we found that the psychosociological features are the same or very similar to the diabetes. And it's very easy to customize the system to these diseases.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Jorge. I think it's really impressive to see, knowing that you come from a completely different industry, how quickly you were able to go into healthcare and implement such solutions such as Voyager.
Thank you very much, Fabian. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later. So having been looked at diabetes care a little bit more from the clinical perspective. The next company also addresses, diabetes per se, one of the biggest burdens of our healthcare system at the moment. but more from a behavioral perspective, also more at the point of the patient itself and how they approach that dilemma and how they want to push patients to a healthier lifestyle. Stephen will tell you all about it directly after the video.
Readycare is a digital therapeutics firm where we use software to treat chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular illnesses.
Roche are collaborating with Readycare to optimize the Readycare Cobas B101 solution offering and to deliver market access advice.
Corporate health programs can play a major role in reducing the prevalence of chronic conditions in their employee populations. Access to these type of clinically validated programs empowers employees to self-manage and treat chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease.
The most valuable part is twofold for me. The great value that we can deliver for patients with chronic disease and patients at risk of developing chronic disease, and also how it helps Roche to provide innovative solutions into the future.
So a great video. Stephen, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we do. We do.
Great stuff. Thanks, Fabian. My name is Stephen Egan. Bit of background. Readycare is a digital therapeutics firm. Our core product, Readycare Control, where we use software to treat chronic disease. We've been successfully working on treating chronic disease using digital methods for nearly 6 years. Readycare Control was developed to address a vast unmet medical need. Globally, approximately 1.2 billion people suffer from type 2 diabetes and hypertension alone. This figure excludes obesity and dyslipidemia. The root cause of the majority of these conditions are lifestyle related. Lifestyle therapy is recommended by all medical associations as a first-line treatment for these conditions, yet today less than 1% of these patients receive the appropriate evidence-based lifestyle therapy. Over the last 5 years, we've seen very consistent clinical results, including HbA1c reductions of 13%, resulting in 48% remission rates in type 2 diabetic subjects, and clinically significant reductions in blood pressure, triglycerides, and weight. There's 6 components to the platform. The components include: we enable patients to build health literacy via video-based education. This is delivered via algorithm based on the patient's clinical needs. We provide the resources to implement the patient's newly acquired health literacy and education. Our platform has a peer-to-peer support platform. We provide evidence-based dietary protocols which have shown to deliver 48% remission rates in type 2 diabetic subjects. We deliver on-demand one-to-one health coach consultations and artificial intelligent powered chatbots to enable the scaling into large populations. As part of the Startup Creasphere program, we defined a joint commercial collaboration leveraging our existing relationship with Roche in the point of care area, and the solution combines diagnosis and immediate access to treatment. We've defined a solution that deeply integrates the Cobas B101 point of care device into the Readycare Control treatment workflow, and aligns with the Roche philosophy of doing now what patients need next, and Readycare's mission of closing the loop of care from diagnosis to immediate access to evidence-based treatment. Some of the main features include a health assessment booking and management module, algorithmically generated personalized health reports delivered at the point of care. Historically, the patient journey stops here. a patient might know that they have pre or type 2 diabetes, for example, but they would have no referral pathway to an evidence-based lifestyle program to treat the condition. Readycare changes this paradigm by closing the loop of care. This is done by enabling immediate access to treatment, targeting robust clinical outcomes which are repeatable and scalable. Based on our experience over the last few years, we see many channels to commercialize the solution. We see the pharmacy sector as an ideal channel. High street pharmacies can have 1,500 to 2,000 repeat prescriptions each month. 70% of these patients will have a chronic condition. Most do not have a structured digital evidence-based treatment program to offer their large client bases. The pharmacy sector is ideally positioned to treat the 99% suffering from chronic conditions currently not being treated. So our next step is commercial and clinical validation in Ireland and the UK. We're starting with one pharmacy group in Ireland and 10 to 15 individual pharmacies in the UK. And our objective here is to demonstrate to the pharmacy sector that chronic disease management can be a very attractive, high margin services business with robust repeating revenue. We also see Australia and Canada as a very attractive market, i.e. as they're English speaking. To summarize, Readycare Control addresses a vast unmet medical need. From a government perspective, healthcare systems perspective, it's financially unsustainable. 75% of healthcare costs are related to chronic illness. There are simply not enough healthcare professionals to treat the unmet need, and we need to enable and use technology like Readycare Control using AI to power large population approaches. So I guess we're closing this loop of care, doing what patient needs next. And I'd like now as well to take a quick shout out and a quick word of thanks to the Creasphere team, to Ferdy and John on the Roche side for their valuable input and support over the last 4 months. And it was great fun and a great experience. And I'll take a couple of questions now if there's anybody has any. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for those kind words. We're really happy to have you on board, and it's incredible to see what you've accomplished. We actually have a very high number of questions, so I might not be able to address all of them. But let's start with the first one. Do you have any metrics around how impactful your solution is for chronic disease patients?
Yeah, for sure. Our impact is profound. We have seen 48% remission rates in type 2 diabetic patients. We have seen monodrug-like results in hypertension, and we're seeing 2 full pints reduction in BMI.
That's tremendous. Congratulations to that.
Yeah.
Another question that comes from one of the other stakeholders in the audience is how easy and how quick would your solution be, customizable for other pharma companies?
Yeah, right now we treat the full spectrum of metabolic disease from hypertension, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, dyslipidemia, overweight and obese conditions. We have a very extensive product pipeline into other indications.
Fantastic. All right, then last question, unfortunately. Does your solution come as a software as a medical device, or what? Do you have a roadmap to go there?
Yes, I mean, for sure. We are and will be classed as a class 2 medical device. We sell on outcomes. We're an outcomes-based product. So okay. we need to embrace that certification and that regulatory regime.
Fantastic. Good luck on the process, and I hope it goes really quick for you.
Thank you, Fabian.
Stephen, thank you so much for being here today. We're running a little bit out of time, but as always, please go to the startup booth and directly ask all the questions to Stephen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers. So last but not least, we're in the last pitch for Roche. It's about Inscriptor. Imagine the following situation. You as a doctor, you potentially see another patient every 15 to 20 minutes. And then after your hours, you also have to do all the reporting manually, a very bureaucratic process. That not only takes away the time from the patient, but is a real burden on the physician, on the doctor. So Inscriptor has developed a solution that could potentially help with that issue. How they do it, Simo and his flatmate, roommate, his cat, will tell you all about it in a second. But first of all, we're going to see the video.
Inscriptor is your best option when you want to enable speech recognition functionalities into your company's solutions or processes. We deliver tailor-made models via our cloud API or to be installed on-premise. The technology is entirely our own and does not depend on any third parties. Roche wanted to liberate the medical professionals from the old-fashioned typing and clicking. In the novel approach, we allow the end users to interact with the information system by using speech only.
We set up an internal dedicated team within Roche with different experts, including UX UI, software engineer, and medical experts. What I learned during the first batch is that running a pilot with a startup requires engagement and work on the corporate side as well. So as a pilot owner, you need to plan accordingly with your team that you have the right expertise available and enough time to make the project a success.
Okay, Simo, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Fabian. First of all, my thanks to the team Creasphere and team Roche for providing us with this opportunity to take part in this pilot project that we have now successfully concluded. Unfortunately, I'm not able to bring my assistant, the cat that you referred to this particular presentation, because she's asleep over there behind me, but you'll just have to settle with my presentation over here. So first and foremost, I actually want to take you back some 300,000 years to address the topic of speech itself and why we want to be speaking about speech so much. So it is evident that humans are the only animals that actually utilize speech between each other in a complex way. And it was also one of the deciding factors why we as a society have come to this point where we are at the moment. So the cultural evolution that was kicked off already hundreds of thousands of years ago was largely thanks to the evolution of speech itself. And what is also important to consider here is that speech as a medium is something that can be considered to have a far larger bandwidth than, for example, if you want to be communicating via a keyboard, especially if it's on your mobile phone. We all know how slow and frustrating entering complex information or even sending just a text message can sometimes be. So these are the points why we have engaged in the business of automatic speech recognition. Now, as a society, we are growing ever more reliant on information systems and computers and mobile devices and all kinds of smart devices that require different kinds of inputs. And yet we still operate them with these old-fashioned types of keyboards that actually saw their advent already in the 1800s. So as you can see on the right-hand side, we have a keyboard that is very similar to the ones that we have on our laptops still today. And even, for example, the mouse is already in its golden years, turning 50 or maybe 60 years soon. But the future will naturally see us using more conversational, more natural methods, how we now only communicate between each other, but also with information systems in the years to come. So with that, I would like to present you with a quick embedded demo of how we implemented this. Sorry about that small break. So how we implemented our technology to a decision-making tool by Roche, which unfortunately we cannot be displaying at this point, but from this short clip, you can get an idea how voice inputs can be utilized in using a information system. So let's take a look. Symptoms: bilateral galactorrhea, typical symptoms of hypothyroidism, painless goiter. Laboratory findings: anemia, primary hypothyroidism, negative thyroid antibodies. Prescription: thyroid hormone replacement therapy. Next meeting in 2 weeks. Submit. All right, so from there you can decipher already how, for example, this kind of an output from our speech recognition algorithm can be implemented into these information systems that might then want to be utilized by perhaps, let's say we use this also in, besides healthcare, also in call centers and other use cases. But this was just to give you an example of what we have now carried out. In this particular proof of concept, the focus was on recognizing complex medical terminology. As you saw an example just a while ago, we are capable of differentiating, let's say, hyperthyroidism with hypothyroidism. So those kinds of things are very crucial, and that's why high levels of accuracy are needed. And this model training was done over the pilot program. So we previously didn't have any kind of a support for complex medical terminology in English, as we have been targeting languages outside of English previously. But just to give you an idea how quickly we are able to adapt to different languages and use cases. The output can be used as is, so we can use it to enter bulk of free-form information, but also to activate voice-driven functions, such, for example, if you want to open a new patient case or then submit the results and so on. So you can also operate the system through voice. And this was our focus with this particular proof of concept. And what is often being asked from us is that which languages do you support, and do you support different kinds of speaker profiles and so on. So this is the genuine benefit of our proprietary AI-based technology, that it adapts automatically to these kinds of use cases. So we as a company do not need to have any linguistic understanding of the particular languages that we take on. And example use cases we have, for example, from Arabic, which is by far, well, we can say that it's a language that none of us understands, even considering the script. And in Finnish, we have actually reached accuracy levels of 97.3, which is closer to human parity already. And perhaps from that, you can already tell that if we're able to do that with Finnish, then any other language is also very much within our reach. Now, what I would like to conclude is from a quote by Roy Amara, who is a Stanford computer scientist, and he said this sometime in the 1960s, that we tend to overestimate the impact of technology in the short term, meaning that we might expect some kind of a revolutionizing effect in the future couple of years to come, but we actually still underestimate the effect in the long run. So in the overcoming decade, we will be seeing a great transformation towards more speech-driven interaction between humans and computers. All right, so with that, I would like to conclude, and also happy to take your questions now, and also happy to meet you at the startup booth.
Thank you so much, Simo. We actually have a very big amount of questions here. So first up, everything is around the capabilities of the technology. For instance, could you envision also going into the speech text diagnostic space when it comes to Alzheimer's or dementia?
Absolutely. So this is actually a case that we are in some ways already working on. So so-called voice biomarkers can also be identified besides just the actual transcripts and voice commands and so on. So we can definitely dive into that.
Okay, fantastic. And then also in that same space, could you also detect emotions out of speech?
Yes, absolutely. That is also possible. At the moment, most of the emotions, so-called sentiments, are actually recognized from the transcribed text. That works just fine, but of course we can always take on the paralinguistic hints that we have within speech itself.
Okay, fantastic. It sounds like a very versatile platform. One last question. Did you reach any very tangible steps with Roche? And could you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, so I think there's a limited amount of information that I can unfortunately give at this point, but we did reach an agreement where our technology will be utilized also in the future within Roche's solutions. So that's something I can perhaps say.
Fantastic! Congratulations to that. We're very excited for you being here with us and also for the next steps to come. With that being said, that was it also for the Roche side of pitches. There's one thing that we need